Hey there, guys, and welcome to week 26 of World War II. February 23rd, 1940. Manstein makes a plan, and Hitler has a man crush. A little bromance occurring. Now, before we dive in, this is the last day of the 8 days of World War II, though, of course, the next video will also be a World War II video, because then we'll be going back to the regular schedule. So let the analysts see, and then observe how this sort of 8 days of World War II kind of does, analytically speaking. So if I end up doing another 8 days of World War II, we shall see. It all is dependent upon you guys and how YouTube treats the videos. But yeah, before we dive in though, a little bit more before we dive in, make sure you go and check out the links in the description box below. Would love you to join the Discord and follow me over at Twitch. And please do go check out the two gaming channels here on YouTube. One is for edited content, and then the other is for the stream VODs. Got it? Good. Let's dive in and hear about Hitler's little bromance.
Yeah, it's an old artillery barracks. Yes, that's what they're going to do with it. Okay, bye. February 23rd, 1940. Adolf Hitler's armies have been inactive in the field since October, but he's making plans for the spring. In fact, he's making plans to invade not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 different nations.
Whoa. Alright. Alright, mustache man. A little crazy. A little cuckoo.
I'm Indy Nidell. This is World War II. Last week, a British destroyer entered Norwegian waters, boarded a German transport ship, and recovered 299 prisoners. Everyone protested that everyone was breaking international law. Everyone was. The big news, though, was that the huge Soviet offensive against the Finns had finally broken a hole in the Mannerheim defense line, and at the end of the week, the Finns began their retreat to the intermediate line. Its strength, though, varies widely depending just where you are. On the Viipuri Gateway, it's as strong as the Mannerheim line had been. Other sections are what one Finnish general calls colored lines on a map. In general, though, it is thin, not very well reinforced with concrete, and the troops defending it are absolutely exhausted. However, it's not until the 17th that the two sides really meet along the whole line, which has given the Finns a short respite to plant mines, throw up what new defenses they can, and get their Bofors guns sighted on the roads where the Soviet tanks will arrive. By the 18th, the Soviets are there in force, making savage attacks. There is still one part of the Mannerheim line that holds, though, the left flank over at Taipale, and this is a pretty tempting target for the Soviets. I mean, Taipale is becoming a salient that the Soviet right is outpacing as it advances. If the Finns have any reserve divisions to throw in, this is the perfect place to seriously hurt the Soviets. So the Soviets decide to try to eliminate the salient once and for all. The 18th is known by the Finns as the Black Day at Taipale, as an entire Soviet division runs roughshod over a regiment of Finnish rookie replacements. But though the Soviets take some big strong points and certainly damage the position, the Finnish veterans in the support line still hold the sector through the end of the week.
Jesus.
There is a shakeup in the Finnish High Command on the 19th. General Hugo Osterman, commander on the Karelian Isthmus, resigns, ostensibly for reasons of health, but he has not been in Finnish Commander Carl Gustav Mannerheim's good books lately, and his wife has just been badly wounded in an air raid. Mannerheim then passes over the next in line for command, General Ökvist, and appoints Erich Heinrichs. But there is a consolidation as well. The 1st and 2nd divisions are now grouped as the 1st Army Corps, positioned between the 2nd and 3rd Corps, and Ökvist's 2nd Corps will now concentrate on the defense of Viipuri. A different prize is soon to fall to the Soviets. As the week nears its end, anybody can see that Koivisto Island will soon be cut off. The Finns' coastal batteries there have done huge damage to any and all Soviet traffic on the coastal roads for weeks. But the Soviets are preparing an all-out assault, and the defenders are needed elsewhere, so on the 23rd they begin to evacuate, firing off just about every shell they have and blowing up what they cannot carry. Of course,
Fair enough.
the Red Army can then move up the coastal roads, and by the end of the day are taking advanced positions beyond Koivisto Island. Ökvist asks Mannerheim if he should draw up plans for a retreat to the rear defense line, just in case. But Mannerheim says no. As William Trotter points out, there are plenty of Finnish officers that think Mannerheim is just being stubborn, but he knows that every inch of Finnish soil the Finnish army can hold gives them that much more leverage at the peace negotiating table. Also, the rear line, the last line of defense, runs through Viipuri itself, and every day they do not have to defend there means a day the city can be built up and improved. Here's something I didn't have time to mention last week. Väinö Tanner, Finnish foreign minister, was in Stockholm and received a resounding no to his plea for Swedish military aid or for Allied military units to cross Sweden. The Swedish government said they were concerned about possible German intervention if they agreed to this, but that's actually about as close to a lie as you can get.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sweden's actual motives were cold-blooded in the extreme. Finland would be forced to make peace with Russia in order to preserve its independence, which would leave the nation of Finland in place as an armed buffer between Sweden and the Soviet giant. None of the Swedish diplomats involved in this policy found it easy to stomach. There it was in a nutshell. The last thing Sweden wanted was to encourage further resistance. Well, as last week turned to this week...
Seems a bit of a flawed logic, though. Like, that buffer would still be there if you help them. Like, if anything, it would be an even stronger buffer if you help them. Right? Am I crazy?
A Swedish newspaper breaks the story of Tanner's trip, his plea, and the reason he was refused. This causes a whole lot of outrage in both Sweden and Finland, to the point where Swedish King Gustav V gets involved. He expresses his regret that they can or will not send aid, but if they do, they might well be dragged into one or both of the current European wars. This pretty much ends the chance that popular opinion will lead to Swedish military intervention. The German Foreign Office gets hold of Tanner and offers to mediate in peace talks with the Soviets. That offer will be withdrawn, and it is because of Hitler's impending Norway campaign, since he doesn't really care how long the Winter War lasts, as long as he still has good relations with the USSR. And his Norway plans are kicking into gear this week. German intelligence has read Britain's naval reports of the Anglo-French plan, decided back on the 5th, to send military forces to Norway on or around March 20th. General Niklaus von Falkenhorst is now assigned to prepare the German invasion plan. He quickly concludes that they need to take Denmark as well as a bridge to Norway and to secure communications. I say quickly because when Hitler gives him the assignment, he is told to make the basic plan by the end of the day. So apparently he uses a Baedeker tourist guide of Norway to plan it, since its maps are the only ones he can get with such short notice. The plan is to land German troops at 7 different Norwegian locations, including Oslo, the capital. As for those Allied plans, British troops that were preparing to go to France are told they have a new destination, one that includes ice and snow, for which their training will soon begin. Force Stratford is the name of the planned military expedition to Finland through Norway. Well, Hitler is making all sorts of plans this week. On the 17th, he meets with General Erich von Manstein. Here's the thing. Manstein had been made a corps commander to get him out of the way of planning for the German offensive in the West, as we saw. But protocol dictates that upon appointment, corps commanders pay respect to the head of state, Adolf Hitler. But this is really just a formality, right? Well, here, chance intervenes. John Keegan writes that Rudolf Schmundt, Hitler's Wehrmacht adjutant, happens to go by Manstein's Koblenz headquarters and gets wind of Manstein's idea for an attack through the Ardennes. This is pretty much also Hitler's idea, but a lot better and more precisely planned. So the formality of meeting becomes an entire morning between Hitler and Manstein. Hitler was entranced, converted, and thereafter did not rest until Brauchitsch and Halder too had accepted the Manstein plan, which he passed off as his own conception.
Of course.
But if the war was going to get a lot more active, a lot of people didn't believe it. On the 20th, Jean-Paul Sartre wrote in his diary, "The war machine is running in neutral. Only yesterday, a sergeant was telling me with a gleam of insane hope in his eyes. What I think is, it'll all be arranged. England will climb down. 1.5 million British women and children were evacuated from the large cities in the fall in case of German bombing, but by Christmas most of them had returned home because nothing was happening. It still wasn't happening, and yet, unknown to them, planning for resuming the active war was growing week after week. This week, certainly a big one for Hitler's planning, ends. Sweden refusing to aid the Finns, the Soviet attacks on the Finns still grinding away, slowly but inexorably pushing them back, and the Finns reorganizing and reconsolidating just to hold on to what they can for as long as they can. I'll end a little differently today with another piece of news rather than a conclusion. On the 21st, Richard Glücks tells Heinrich Himmler he's found a good site for a quarantine camp, a place to imprison and punish Poles and put them to work for acts of disobedience or rebellion. It actually used to be an Austro-Hungarian cavalry barracks, so there are a bunch of sturdy, well-built brick buildings already there. The German name for this site is Auschwitz.
Oh. That's how we're ending it. Okay. Okay. It was a short episode. Alright, that was week 26 of World War II, February 23rd, 1940. Manstein makes a plan and Hitler falls in love with him. I've got nothing to add here. There wasn't really anything to say. No discussion really to be had with this week. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.